Good afternoon. I'm Jane Joseph, Museum Director of the Jewish Holocaust Centre. It's my privilege and great honour to present this special broadcast, which we've put together in place of the usual communal event at the Robert Blackwood Hall. This program includes many elements of that event: survivor testimony, candle lighting, a few songs and the recital of Kaddish. It's around 40 minutes long, so please sit down, find a candle if you can, and take this opportunity to stop whatever you're doing, pause and reflect. When the sun sets this evening towards the close of this broadcast, we begin our annual solemn day of commemoration of the events of the Holocaust, our Yom HaShoah. We are indeed living in unusual times. The coronavirus has deprived us of gathering together this year. It's impacting on all of us in many significant ways, but one thing it cannot stop is our commitment to remember the Holocaust and memorialise its 6 million Jewish victims. And it also will not prevent us from connecting our unique community of survivors and descendants, each of us in our own homes, coming together to remember. We live today with the reality that the elders in our community, and of course our Holocaust survivors, are mostly in isolation, or we are unable to visit them if they're in aged care facilities. It's challenging for all of us, but we know it is in their best interest to be protected from harm. Many survivors have been sending us lovely messages demonstrating their resilience, hope and determination. These are the lessons they teach us, while others are struggling with it, as it reminds them of the dark days of their youth, the nightmare of war and the Holocaust. Our thoughts go out to all the survivors in our community and across the world. We look forward to seeing you and embracing you again, and we want to reassure you that we will not forget what happened to you and your families. This year, the JCCV, the Jewish Community Council of Victoria, had planned to focus their commemoration on our community's wonderful Holocaust survivors with the theme 75 Years of Remembrance and Rebuilding. 2020 marks 75 years since the Second World War ended. With the end of war came the end of the Nazi-perpetrated genocide of European Jewry, a state-sponsored genocide unprecedented in its scope, enormity, duration, methodology, intensity and brutality. These past weeks have seen special anniversaries of the liberation of camps such as Bergen-Belsen and Buchenwald. It's heartbreaking that our lovely Buchenwald boys and their families could not get together and sing and dance as they usually do, but their children and grandchildren did a wonderful job of putting together a commemorative video instead. Each year, the testimony of a Holocaust survivor has been central to the commemoration because of the critical importance of collective memory. From 7 p.m. tonight, I urge you to go to the JCCV website to listen to any one or more from a collection of testimonies delivered by Melbourne Holocaust survivors at previous Yom HaShoah commemorations. That way you can do your part to keep those memories alive. And immediately following this broadcast at 6 p.m, Launchpad are hosting the first ever virtual Yom HaShoah gathering to mark Holocaust Remembrance Day. This is an interactive event which will explore the preservation of memory and the ways in which we can be custodians of our family stories. Go to the Jewish Holocaust Centre website and click on the link Turning Memory into Action to register for this. Elie Wiesel once said, "For the survivor who chooses to testify, it is clear. His duty is to bear witness for the dead and for the living. He has no right to deprive future generations of a past that belongs to our collective memory."
Good evening. My name is Pauline Rockman, and I'm co-president of the Jewish Holocaust Centre. And I'd like to share with you this evening a short part of testimony from my dear friend, Holocaust survivor Kitcha Altman, Zichron Lebracha, of blessed memory. Kitcher was a mentor to me and the many thousands she touched throughout her years as guide at the Jewish Holocaust Center, and I cherish her words. She was, for me, a source of inspiration. She taught me about Holocaust. She challenged and confronted me about truth and the nature of human beings. She opened my eyes to Holocaust survivors who were not seeking revenge. She taught me much about the human spirit, about humility and resilience, and about standing up for your rights. I mean, please explain. How does one find humanity in the depths of Auschwitz? Well, Kitcher did. She proved to be a powerful voice for the survivors, one of the Holocaust Center's well-known spokespersons. She was so articulate and well-versed. She was a living connection to the Holocaust. My grandson Julian, who's now 14, said, it's his generation that would be the last to be able to have that real-life connection with Holocaust survivors. Kitcher and I would have innumerable discussions about the future of Holocaust. And she said, and I quote, no one can make any predictions about the future, but as long as people exist who understand the survivors and who can pass the knowledge and the feelings of the survivors on to others, then Holocaust will be remembered, both as part of Jewish identity and for its universal importance. I've learned from you, dearest Kitcher, and from my dear friend Otto Kohn, and all the other survivors who continue to impact powerfully on me and have done so all throughout my life, and the impact on our community and the world. And as I relate this to the challenges of Corona today, it's not that I'm trying to compare it to Holocaust, but I have learned, for me, this is what I have learned, that this too shall pass. Indeed, it is a powerful reminder that life is never still, that we need to be prepared for change, and that we must have hope.
My name is Kicia Altman, and I was born in Poland, in a small town. Name of the town was Będzin, known in German as Bensburg. I matriculated in 1939, which is equivalent to finishing the high school. And we were practically under the Germans 6 hours after they entered Poland. I say about myself that I am, in a way, a typical, but in many other ways, not a typical survivor. I am typical in as much that I lived through the Holocaust. I was in labor camps, in concentration camps, in extermination camp, Auschwitz. But the two factors that contributed to my survival first and my healing process later were the fact that throughout the duration of Holocaust in Poland, since 1939 to 1945, I had a friend, a girlfriend, and we were very, very close together. She was older, she was wiser, and she became my conscience. And through all the phases of living in ghetto, of being in camps, we were very closely bonded together, and we were extremely lucky. The possibility of being separated in Auschwitz through selection, through sickness, through death, was a stuff from which our nightmares were made, even after the war. In times where humanity was practically non-existent, in times where human being was made look grotesque, was degraded, humiliated. And in those times, just calling each other by name and not by number that we both had the tattoo. The fact that we could talk about our families. We reminded each other about things like sitting on a chair and eating soup with a spoon and not lapping that out of a dirty bowl like a dog with your tongue. So these little incidents had a tremendously, not only they had a humanizing effect on both of us, but they kept us on the edge of total dehumanization. The other factor that helped me in survival was the obvious fact that I came to Auschwitz late. Up till that time, we wore our civilian clothes. We had access to water, to soap. We kept ourselves clean. We had a toothbrush, a comb, a mirror. Some people even had to have a bit of a lipstick. We ate sitting at the table. The food was cooked by the cook of the ghetto. Suddenly, we arrived to Auschwitz, trying to block out from our consciousness the fact that such a place exists. We were transported there in cattle wagons. I cannot tell you how long we traveled. The wagons were dark, there was no water and no facilities to relieve yourself. In our case, we were only girls, young girls. There was nowhere to sit down. We were, the aim of the transportation under such condition was to demoralize people before they even arrive where they had to arrive. And it must have been a long journey because each one got used already to the sound of the wheels and to the rocking of the train. And as far as I was concerned, all I want was to sleep and to sleep and to sleep. And suddenly I was jerked out of that stupor and the train stopped. And we heard the heavy iron bar to be lifted, and the sliding door opened, and we found ourselves on the platform. The force of the people at the back of the wagon pushed us, and we fell out. We spilled, just like a sack of potatoes. And we spilled on a black platform that had a bluish light. And the first thing that hit me was the silence. We were perhaps 1,000 women from different camps. And it was a deathly silence. It was not a silence that gives you the feeling of peace, of quietude. It was a silence of death and the bluish light and figures that stood there motionless in striped. And I remember I had that urge to touch such a figure. I thought, they are cutouts. They were thin. They were almost one-dimensional. They didn't throw a shadow. They were thin. So I thought that they are cutouts from some wood. And they were uniformed people. And we immediately fell into a group of people who know each other. And I was the one who said, girls, it's all true. Meaning that we are here at the end, that's the end. And I remember I looked up, and in places the dark sky had a pinkish glow, and I was still thinking like a human being, like a person, because I thought to myself, it's strange. Everything here is strange, but the nature works like it works normally. After night comes day, and that is the break of dawn. That was my last formulated thought. And then there was suddenly a scream, a yell, schnell, 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 you know, quick, quick, quick. And we were pushed through the gate, and I stood on the extreme left, and about not further than this window, a meter away from me stood a guard with a weapon on his shoulder, and he was whispering loud enough for me to hear, for anybody to hear, in German, and I knew perfectly well German, and he said, Auschwitz, you enter through the gate, and you leave, and he jerked his head up, and I followed that up, and I saw chimneys with fire. And what I thought was the break of dawn was a reflection of fire. We still did not associate that, because what I think happened, at least it happened to me, I stopped thinking. And I remember I said to myself, stop thinking and feeling. The feeling was more than thinking, stop feeling. And we ran through 2 rows of very low huts. And by that time was already grayish, and the real dawn broke, and some shapes were crawling out of these huts, and we couldn't establish whether they are men or women. They all had their hair cut like in the olden days they used to cut the hair in asylum. Everyone who's asylum had those sticky hair cut to make him look grotesque, and they were wrapped with what we later discovered were those so-called blankets. And as I said, there were about 1,000 women, and each one called out in her own language, in all languages, who are you? And where are we? We still did not know for sure where we were. And there was no response, no contact. Within a very brief period, quite deliberately, we were made looking unrecognizable. We couldn't recognize each other. On our naked, wet bodies, we were thrown dresses, and there must have been a method in the madness, because the tall girls got short dresses, the short girls got long dresses, the thick got narrow dresses, and so on. And I remember I was calling my girlfriend, Sesha. I couldn't see her anywhere. And suddenly somebody was pulling my hand. I looked at her. I said, who are you? She said, I am Sesha. I looked at her, and I saw how I look.
That is indeed a powerful extract from the testimony of the late Kitja Altman. It has become traditional to light 6 candles on Yom HaShoah. This year, dedicated to Holocaust survivors in isolation, we're so grateful to find 6 survivors who were able to record themselves lighting a candle.
My name is David Prince. I survived the Lodz ghetto, Auschwitz-Birkenau, and a work camp called Friedland, a sub-camp of Gross-Rosen in Germany. I light this candle in memory of my mother, Fremet Chaya Kleinbaum Prince, her 7 siblings and their families, my father's 2 siblings and their families, and many extended family members. My message to you today is: the only way to maintain our religion, our heritage, and our existence is to unite and be proud of who we are. Only together can we combat anti-Semitism. Only together we can stop assimilation, and only together we ensure never again.
My name is Sarah Saroni. I survived the war in hiding in Germany. I light this candle in memory of my father, mother, my sister, her husband, and her baby. My message to you today is: live and let live. We are all human beings. We should live in peace.
Is Jean Lamavie. I survived in hiding in France. I light this candle in memory of my mother, Alta Hanna Schlamovich, my sister, Fanny Schlamovich, my grandparents, Boruch and Rezel Sizansky, and my uncle Joseph and Shmerek Sizansky. My message is: we must make sure that their death and the death of all the other victims were not in vain, and it must never happen again.
My name is Lucia Haberfeld. I am a child Holocaust survivor. I survived Warsaw Ghetto, Majdanek, Auschwitz, Birkenau, and Bergen-Belsen. I light the candles in memory of my family, my beloved father and brother, and the 6 million victims. My message to you is: remember.
My name is Philip Meisel. I survived the Vilna Ghetto, 7 hard labor camps in Estonia, 3 concentration camps in Germany, Stutthof, Dautbergen, and Frommer. I light this candle in the memory of my mother, Slava, and my father, Samuel Meisel, and in memory of all my relatives, friends, and 6 million Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust. My message to you today is: never forget the lesson of the Holocaust. We shouldn't be a bystander. We should always stand up and fight for the truth. Fight for the basic human values.
I, Rona Zinga, was born in 1943 in Kovno Ghetto, Lithuania, at the time when pregnancy was illegal for Jewish women and birth were not permitted in the ghetto. So we can't imagine the hardships required to hide and keep a baby. My mother was a hero though. She organized to smuggle me and my brother out, as well as more than 30 other children. I remained hidden and adopted by a courageous, gentle couple for 5 years. They called me Lily, and they even had me baptized. My father miraculously survived Dachau, returned to Lithuania in the end of 45, and tried to reclaim me. But my foster parents didn't want to give me up. So in 1949 my father had me abducted by friends dressed as police. I was finally reunited with my father and brother, who was also hidden during the war. Father renamed me to Rona in memory of my mom, who was murdered in Stuttgart concentration camp. In 2018, my mother was recognized as a Jewish rescuer for saving children in a special ceremony in Israel. The vast majority of Kovna ghetto children were murdered, 2,500 of them on March 27 in the Kinder Action. A year ago, I survived once again, this time a major invasive cancer operation. My message to you today is to remember how lucky we are to live in Australia. Although here and the rest of the world is in turmoil due to the COVID-19, we can appreciate that it does not even compare to the horrors of the Holocaust. We must not forget those murdered during the Holocaust, especially the children in Kovna and all other places in Europe. I light this candle in memory of them and my mother Rona Rosenthal, my uncle Elias Shmulov, leader of the resistance Kovna Ghetto, and all lost members of my family. May they live forever in our hearts.
Another tradition for Yom HaShoah is the singing of the hymn El Malei Rachamim, which means God full of compassion. I want to share with you now a historic recording of this hymn, performed by Holocaust survivor Shlomo Katz as a lasting testament and hymn to the victims of Auschwitz. Katz's story is remarkable. He was a Romanian Jew who found himself in Auschwitz in 1941 facing his death. He asked the Nazi officer for permission to sing a hymn and sang El Malei Rachamim. The officer was so moved by the depth and intensity of the music that he let him escape. Let's listen to Shlomo Katz singing it in 1950. We're grateful to Rabbi Ralph Ganende from Caulfield Shul for recording a special version of Kaddish for Yom HaShoah. Please have a candle ready, and after Kaddish, light your candle and observe a minute's silence.
Kaddish. Is there a collective Kaddish for the victims of the Shoah? Should not the Kaddish resonate, perhaps with the words of the killing fields rather than the words of praise for the Almighty? Or less harsh, is there a collective Kaddish for the victims of the Shoah? Should not the Kaddish resonate, perhaps with the words of the killing fields together with words of praise for the Almighty? Yitkadal, lodge. V'yitkadash, gurs. Shmei Rabbah, Warsaw. Be'alma divrach Chirutei, Bogdanovka. V'yamlich Malchutei, Ravensbrück. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon, Vilna. U'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Treblinka. Ba'agala u'vizman kariv, Chelmno. V'yimru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mavorach La'olam U'Lomei Maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach Belzitz. V'yitpa'ar v'yitromam Buchenwald. V'yitnaseh v'yitadar Sobibor. V'yitale v'yitalal Maidanek. Shmei dikudsha brichu Mauthausen. Min kol birchata v'shirata Bergen-Belsen. Tushbachata v'nechemata Dachau. Damiran be'alma Auschwitz v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shrai v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen.
As we look at the flames we have lit, we ask ourselves, what does this mean? Why remember this tragedy every year? Why not forget, as some suggest? Wouldn't it be better to forget? Up until a month ago, I would have said, it's important to remember because we've seen anti-Semitism on the rise. We see racism around us. We need to be vigilant, and we need to remind others of the dangers of not standing up to anti-Semitism and injustice. And we know the dangers because we've heard it from the survivors directly, so we need to be custodians of this message. We are the witnesses of the witnesses. It is our duty. The flame is a symbol of light in the darkness, and we should hold on to our collective roles to enlighten the world whenever it heads into dark days. And more than this, to shine a light on the kindness and decency that should serve as an example to all. Focus on the light. Focus on the good. And today the message is stronger than ever. Today we are in isolation, but many of us have reconnected with friends and families across the globe like never before. We have learned to appreciate family in many different ways. For some, it's about learning to spend time in close quarters, reconnecting under one roof, while for others, it's around realising just how much we miss and value physical contact with older members of the family, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends. Living during this coronavirus pandemic has reminded us all how important our elders are, and today I urge you to be mindful of the survivors in our community still with us today. At the Jewish Holocaust Centre, we're asking people to write letters to survivors. Let them know you're thinking of them and have been touched by them. Information is available on our website if you don't know a survivor to write to. So, in concluding this special broadcast, let us all pledge to keep the memory of the Holocaust and its victims alive in whatever way we can. This year we're in isolation, but we are not alone. Never before have we been more connected. We remember together. Let's finish with a song that our survivors love to sing, the Partisan Song, as performed by the Sholem Aleichem Choir. I feel that its rousing spirit and sentiment is vital right now.
So we came alles du gehst im letzten Weg, verschiedene Beine, verstellen Leute. Komm ein Bett nach unser Haus geweckt schon, es wird erbeutern unser Tod mir seine da. Komm ein Bett nach unser Haus geweckt schon, es wird erbeutern unser Tod mir seine da. Von grünen Palmenland bis weißem Land von Schnee. Wir kommen an mit unser Bein, mit unser Weg. Und wo gefallen sie sich spitz von unser Blut? Schwarze Bett auf unser Hunger, unser Mut. Und wo gefallen sie sich spitz von unser Blut? Schwarze Bett auf unser Hunger, unser Mut. Es wird die Morgen und verbilden unsereHeit. Und gerne Nächte wird verschieden mit der Zeit. Zusammen mit die Sonne der Kajo. Wie ein Ballon, so geht das Licht von da zu da. Zusammen mit die Sonne der Kajo. Wie ein Ballon, so geht das Licht von da zu da. Das Lied geschrieben ist mit Blut und nicht mit Blei. Sie singt kein Lied von der Vogel auf der Weih. Das Holz auf Holz zwischen Fall und dicke Bett. Das Lied gesungen mit ner Garnes in die Hand. Das Holz auf Holz zwischen Fall und dicke Bett. Das Lied gesungen mit ner Garnes in die Hand. So sag mich einmal, als du gehst den letzten Weg. Verschiedenen Bleien, verstellen Leute. Kommen weg nach unser Haus gewänkte Schau. Es wird erbeutern unser Trotz mir seinen Tod. Kommen weg nach unser Haus gewänkte Schau. Es wird erbeutern unser Tod für seinen Tod.
The Jewish Holocaust Centre would like to express our gratitude to Michael Cohen with his guidance for this broadcast, all the survivor candlelighters, Rabbi Ralph Ganende from Caulfield Shul, the Sholem Aleichem Choir, the lovely people at JR, including Cian Meltzer, Robert Bonchek and Mark Skernick, the Jewish News for publicising this broadcast, our own team including Pauline Rockman, Robbie Simons, Danielle Camion and Evelyn Portek, and finally to all of you for tuning in to this special event. Go to our website, Jewish Holocaust Centre website, for links to the Launchpad event commencing at 6 p.m, or to the JCCV website for their streaming, which commences at 7 p.m.